Top 10 Interesting Titanic Real-Life Survivor Stories. Long before James Cameron's epic romantic saga made a mark, the original 1912 Titanic ship captured millions of hearts. Every engineer on duty sacrificed their lives staying behind to save others. From the minute the Titanic sank, the world wanted to know who survived and who didn't. Each survivor who safely reached New York City had an interesting story to tell. Here, we have presented some of the most fascinating top 10 survivor experience from the Titanic. Baby of Hope, ELIZA Gladys Dean. ELIZA was only 2 months old when she survived that fateful night. ELIZA, along with her brother and mother, survived the accident and safely returned to England. On board RMS Adriatic, ELIZA marched into the hearts of the survivors as a symbol of hope. Many were fascinated to see a small baby survive such a gigantic disaster. She died in 2009, and her ashes were scattered in Southampton docks. The real Jack Thayer. Jack Thayer was born into an aristocratic family. Jack's father was the director of Pennsylvania Railroad Company. Meanwhile, Jack and his parents embarked aboard the Titanic at Cherbourg on 10 April. Immediately after the collision, Jack jumped off the ship and survived to narrate the ordeal. Most importantly, Jack was one amongst the 40 survivors who fell or jumped into the water. The man who died daily, MASABUMI, HOSONO. MASABUMI HOSONO was the one and only Japanese citizen who survived the disaster. When the ship started sinking, HOSONO reached the ship's main deck. With the children and women first policy was executed at gunpoint, he sneaked to safety in a lifeboat. After arriving in Japan, he was ostracized and branded as a coward. More to that, the government fired HOSONO from the job. The heroic Molly Brown. Proudly called the unmissable Molly Brown, she commanded one of the lifeboats and threatened the quartermaster with dire consequences. Molly ordered the quartermaster to turn back and search for any other survivors. Ultimately, she earned a film as well as a Broadway musical named after her. Miss Lucky, Violet Jessop. First of all, Violet Jessop worked as an ocean liner stewardess. Moreover, she managed to survive 2 other disasters other than Titanic. She survived the 1911 collision of a British warship, the sinking of 1912 Titanic, and 1916 HMHS Britannic. According to her memoirs, she observed lifeboats were filled and subsequently hoarded onto lifeboat 16. Mr. Perfect, Charles Lightoller, senior officer of the Titanic. After the collision, Senior Officer Charles Lightoller followed the children and women first rule very aggressively. He even allowed the boats to go empty, rather than allow any men enter the boat. As the ship sank, Lightoller was dragged into the water and resurfaced when the boiler exploded. Finally, he held on to a collapsible boat and survived till the rescue ship arrived. Only Love Attitude, NOＥL, Leslie. NOEL Leslie bravely took charge of Lifeboat 8's tiller and moved it clear of the drowning Titanic. In cold conditions, she steered the boat to safety for more than 1 hour. After reaching America safely, she evaded publicity. This incident made her as the greatest heroines of the Titanic saga. The first man to yell, "Iceberg!" right ahead, Frederick Fleet. Frederick Fleet traveled in the Titanic as one of the ship's lookout. He spotted the iceberg first, and alerted the crew members. After the untimely collision, Fleet controlled, and managed to steer one lifeboat to safety. During interrogation, Fleet expressed his disappointment that he could not prevent the collision due to lack of binoculars. Finally, Fleet committed suicide in 1965 because of depression. The fortunate Lawrence Beesley. Lawrence Beesley worked at England's Dulwich College as a teacher. He travelled second class on the Titanic from Southampton. After the collision, he somehow managed to escape and board Lifeboat 13. After boarding the lifeboat, he watched the ship sink into the ice-cold waters as its dazzling lights flickered. Moreover, he recalled his experience in his book titled The Loss of the SS Titanic. Charles JOUGHIN, Is It a Life Saved by Whiskey? Chief Charles JOUGHIN attributed his lucky survival to many glasses of whiskey he drank before the disaster. He swam for almost 2 hours in ice-cold water before he escaped safely